let's talk straight away to Julian Jessup, independent economist, a man who says things that actually tend to come true, unlike some economists, like Rachel Reeves, who says things that tend not to come true. Julian, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
So, the pound falls yesterday to a 14-month low. Rachel Reeves returns from China to what can only be described as a pretty bleak economic outlook. Where do you see it all going in the next week or two?
Well, I'll start with the pound. I still think this is mainly a story of the strength of the US currency rather than weakness of sterling. So if you look at the dollar across the board, it's strong against other currencies as well. So if you take the euro, it's actually at its lowest for more than 2 years. So we're not really being singled out in the currency markets, but we are now in the bond markets. And I think that's where the bigger problem lies. So the cost of government borrowing is continuing to rise, which is very worrying because that's going to make it almost impossible for Rachel Reeves to meet her fiscal rules without either cutting spending or raising taxes even further. So that's the big problem that she's got. I think the only way out of this is growth. Frankly, the markets are sick and tired of hearing all these promises about fiscal credibility and ironclad grip on the public finances. What they want to see is economic growth. And so far, we've seen very little that's encouraging here. And there's some hope in the latest plans on AI, but those will take many years to come through. We need something bigger and bolder and sooner.
Yes, and we're going to see growth figures, I think, for November soon, aren't we, which are not likely to be very good.
Well, that's right. I think that, as you know, the economy basically stalled in the second half of last year. And I think it's no coincidence that was at the time that the Labour government took power. So to begin with, Labour ministers were sort of talking down the economy. You remember they were banging on about the worst economic inheritance since the war. And then the budget came along, and that was even worse than people anticipated in terms of the tax increases and other increases in business costs. So I think the second half of last year is basically a write-off. We'll be at or very close to recession over that period. And the early part of this year isn't going to be any better. We haven't even had the main increases in tax in the budget. They don't come through until April. Right. We've got the prospect of a very tight spending review and probably a further increase in inflation as well, data that's also coming out this week. So in the near term, things look very gloomy. Yeah, they do. And I mean, there doesn't appear to be any sign of growth at all anywhere in the economy. You know, every single business that I speak to is talking about contracting. Every single business organisation is saying that their members are either firing people or certainly not hiring people, and they're very much holding back on any kind of, innovative introduction of new products. Everything's kind of in a bit of what you might call a sea of calm. That's right. I mean, there's no doubt that the budget and the other announcements isn't just the budget. It's things like the increase in national minimum wage, the increased regulation of the labour market generally, the uncertainty about energy policy. All of these things have hammered business confidence. And I think that's very worrying. If I was trying to clutch at straws, there are a few things I would point to. So I think most people will still see their incomes rise faster than prices this year. I still think there's a good chance the Bank of England will cut interest rates more aggressively. And there will be some increase in public spending, which might provide some boosts to some parts of the economy. So I think the second half of the year might look a lot better than the first, but in the short term, at least, things look terrible. And you get a risk of a sort of downward spiral. Animal spirits are really, really important. Economists tend to run these models and plug numbers in, but they don't take enough account of business confidence in particular, but also consumer confidence, that I think could be much more fragile if unemployment starts to rise sharply. Right. And I'm going to ask you a yes or no question because we haven't got a lot of time. Will Rachel Reeves be Chancellor for the full term of the Parliament? No. Thank you. That's what I think. Julian Jessup, independent economist there, with a far more realistic account, I would say, of the situation regarding Rachel Reeves. She ain't going to make it. The skids are under her. She's absolutely and utterly on that luge downhill to despair. She's just come back from China to a front page that calls her a lame duck, and that's in the Daily Mail.